The dust from the midday stage swirled through Sweetwater, Wyoming territory as Isaiah Whitaker dismounted from his chestnut mare. The year was 1878, and like many men who'd survived the war, he'd pushed westward seeking fortune and forgetting. But what awaited him in this frontier town was something no gold claim could match, a chance encounter that would rewrite the lonely chapters of his life. "Easy there, Penny," Isaiah murmured to his horse as he looped her reins around the hitching post outside Sweetwater's general store. The journey from his small ranch 10 miles outside town had been unremarkable, but necessary. His supplies had dwindled to nearly nothing, and a man couldn't survive on pride alone. At 32, Isaiah carried himself with the quiet dignity of someone who'd seen too much too young. His tall frame remained lean despite years of ranch work, and beneath the shadow of his worn Stetson, keen blue eyes surveyed the dusty Main Street with habitual caution. The war had taught him that, at least, to always be ready. The bell above the door jingled as Isaiah stepped inside Fuller's general store. The familiar scents of coffee, leather, and tobacco greeted him, along with the store's proprietor, Harold Fuller, a round-faced man with spectacles perpetually sliding down his nose. "Afternoon, Mr. Whitaker." "What can I do for you today?" Fuller asked, adjusting those wayward spectacles. "Just the usual, Mr. Fuller. Flour, coffee, beans." Isaiah placed his list on the counter. "And I could use some nails. Fence needs mending." As Fuller gathered the supplies, the door chimed again. Isaiah didn't turn immediately. It wasn't his business who came and went, but when he heard a child's excited voice, he couldn't help but look. "Mama, look. They have dolls, real dolls with painted faces." A little girl, no more than 6, pressed her nose against the glass case where Fuller kept his finer merchandise. Behind her stood a woman Isaiah had never seen before, which was notable in a town as small as Sweetwater. "Yes, Emma, they're beautiful," the woman said softly. "But remember what we talked about. We're only here for necessities today." The disappointment on the child's face was immediate and complete. Isaiah found himself studying the woman more closely. She wore a simple blue dress, modestly cut but well made. Her brown hair was pinned beneath a practical bonnet, and though she couldn't have been more than 25, there was a weariness around her eyes that spoke of hardship endured. "New in town?" Fuller called over to her, voicing the question Isaiah hadn't. The woman straightened her shoulders. "Yes, sir, Lily Cooper. My daughter Emma and I arrived on yesterday's stage from Denver." "Well, welcome to Sweetwater, Mrs. Cooper. Not much to the place, but we're friendly enough." "Miss," she corrected gently, "and thank you." Isaiah noted the absence of a wedding ring, though the presence of a child suggested there had once been a husband. Widowed, perhaps, or abandoned, neither uncommon out here where life was harsh and often brief. Fuller finished gathering Isaiah's supplies, and as Isaiah paid, he couldn't help overhearing Miss Cooper's quiet requests: basic foodstuffs, lamp oil, a few yards of plain fabric. "And where will I find Mrs. Harrison's boarding house?" she asked as Fuller wrapped her purchases. "2 blocks down, white house with green shutters. Can't miss it," Fuller replied. Isaiah collected his supplies and nodded politely as he passed Miss Cooper and her daughter. The little girl was still gazing longingly at the display case, and something about her wistful expression stayed with him as he loaded his saddlebags. He was halfway mounted when the door opened again and Miss Cooper emerged, struggling with her packages while trying to keep hold of her daughter's hand. "Let me help you with those, madam," Isaiah said before he could think better of it, stepping back down. She looked startled, then wary. "That's not necessary, Mr. Whitaker, Isaiah Whitaker." He removed his hat briefly. "And it's no trouble, heading that way anyhow." After a moment's hesitation, she nodded her acceptance. "Thank you, Mr. Whitaker." As they walked the short distance to the boarding house, Emma skipped ahead, seemingly delighted by the novelty of a new town. "You've got a spirited daughter," Isaiah observed. "She adapts quickly," Lily replied. "Children are resilient that way. And you, Miss Cooper. How are you finding Sweetwater? It's early days yet." Her tone was polite but guarded. "I've taken a position with Mrs. Harrison, helping with the boarding house and doing seamstress work." Good woman, Mrs. Harrison, fair-minded. They reached the boarding house and Isaiah helped carry the packages to the door. As they arrived, Emma turned to her mother. Mama, will I have a place for Harriet at the new house? Harriet's still in the trunk, sweetheart. And yes, we'll find her a spot. Who's Harriet? Isaiah asked, curiosity getting the better of him. My doll, Emma explained seriously. She's very old and special. My papa gave her to me. A shadow crossed Lily's face. Thank you for your help, Mr. Whitaker. We won't keep you any longer. Isaiah recognized a dismissal when he heard one. He tipped his hat. Madam, Miss Emma, good day to you both. As he rode back to his ranch, Isaiah found himself thinking about the new arrivals more than he'd expected to. There was something about the quiet dignity of Lily Cooper and the bright eyes of her daughter that lingered in his mind, a splash of color in the dusty monotony his life had become. The next few weeks passed as they always did for Isaiah. He mended fences, tended his small herd of cattle, and kept to himself. His ranch wasn't much 100 acres with a modest cabin he'd built himself, but it was his, free and clear. After years of drifting following the war, he'd wanted something permanent, something that couldn't be taken away. It was nearly a month before he returned to town, this time to deliver 2 calves he'd sold to Jeremiah Prine, who owned the livery. After concluding his business, Isaiah found himself walking past Mrs. Harrison's boarding house. He hadn't intended to stop, but there was Miss Cooper in the front garden hanging laundry while Emma played nearby. Afternoon, Miss Cooper, he called, removing his hat. She looked up, squinting against the sun. Recognition dawned slowly. Mr. Whitaker, good afternoon. How are you settling in? Well enough, thank you. She pinned a sheet to the line. Emma, don't go near the street, please. The little girl had been playing with what looked like a cloth doll, but at the sight of Isaiah, she came running over. Hello, mister, do you remember me? Isaiah couldn't help but smile. Of course, Miss Emma Cooper, if I recall correctly. She beamed, then thrust her doll forward for inspection. This is Harriet. She came with us all the way from Denver. Before that, she was in Boston with my papa. Isaiah crouched down to Emma's level. Pleased to meet you, Harriet, he said solemnly, tipping an imaginary hat to the doll. The toy had clearly seen better days. One arm was slightly shorter than the other, and the painted face was faded, but it was obviously treasured. Papa made her a special house before he went to heaven, Emma continued, but it got broken on the stage. Mama says maybe someday we can fix it. Emma, Lily intervened, her voice gentle but firm. Mr. Whitaker surely has business to attend to. Isaiah straightened. Actually, I was just heading back to my ranch, but I'm curious, what kind of house did Harriet have? A dollhouse, Emma exclaimed. With tiny furniture and a roof that opened up, it was the prettiest thing ever. Something stirred in Isaiah's mind, a memory of his sister Margaret playing with a similar toy long ago, before fever took her when she was only 9. He'd been 12 then, and had helped his father build the dollhouse. The skills had stayed with him. What happened to it? He asked. Lily sighed. It was damaged during our journey. The stage hit a bad patch of road outside Cheyenne. Several of our things were broken. Beyond repair, I'm afraid so. The roof collapsed and some of the walls split. Emma was heartbroken. The little girl nodded solemnly. Harriet misses her house. Isaiah found himself speaking before he'd fully thought it through. I might be able to help with that. I've some skill with woodworking. Lily's expression turned cautious. That's very kind, but we couldn't impose. It's no imposition. I've got plenty of scrap wood at my place, and time enough now that spring planting is done. Please, Mama. Emma looked up at her mother with pleading eyes. Lily hesitated, then asked, What would you want in return, Mr. Whitaker? The question surprised him. Nothing, madam. Just being neighborly. She studied him for a long moment, as if trying to discern his true intentions. Finally, she said, If you're certain it's no trouble, Emma would be very grateful, as would I. Then it's settled. Do you still have the broken house? Might help to see what I'm working with. Yes, in our rooms. Emma, would you like to show Mr. Whitaker what's left of Harriet's house? The little girl nodded eagerly and darted toward the house. Lily gestured for Isaiah to follow, and he trailed after them, ducking his head to enter the modest boarding house. Their rooms were small but tidy, a bedroom they clearly shared, and a sitting area with a small table where sewing projects were neatly arranged. From under the bed, Emma pulled out the remains of what had once been an elaborate dollhouse. Isaiah knelt to examine it. The craftsmanship had been excellent dovetail joints, tiny window frames with real glass miniature shingles on the roof, but the damage was extensive. One side had completely collapsed and the roof was hanging at an awkward angle. "Your father made this?" he asked, impressed despite the damage. "Yes," Lily answered softly. "James was very skilled. He was a furniture maker in Boston before." She trailed off, glancing at Emma. "Before he went to be with the angels," Emma supplied matter-of-factly. "Mama says he watches over us still." Isaiah nodded, understanding the unspoken history. "Well, he did fine work. I'm not sure I can match it, but I can certainly build something sturdy for Harriet." "Anything would be appreciated," Lily said. "Emma has so few reminders of her father." Isaiah carefully gathered the broken pieces. "I'll see what I can salvage. Might take me a couple of weeks, got some cattle to tend to first." "There's no hurry, Mr. Whitaker. It's more than generous of you to offer at all." As Isaiah prepared to leave with the broken dollhouse carefully wrapped in burlap, he found himself lingering. There was something about Lily Cooper's quiet strength and her daughter's resilient spirit that drew him. It had been a long time since he'd felt any connection to another person. "Mrs. Harrison serves Sunday supper to her boarders," Lily said suddenly. "Perhaps. If you'd like to check on your progress with the dollhouse, you might join us this week." The invitation surprised him. "I wouldn't want to intrude. It wouldn't be an intrusion. Emma would enjoy giving you her opinions on Harriet's new home." A small smile touched her lips. "And I'm told my apple pie is worth the trip to town." Isaiah found himself returning her smile. "In that case, Miss Cooper, I'll see you Sunday." As he rode home that afternoon, the broken dollhouse secured behind his saddle, Isaiah felt something he hadn't experienced in years, a sense of anticipation, of having something to look forward to beyond the next day's chores. True to his word, Isaiah arrived at Mrs. Harrison's boarding house that Sunday, freshly shaved and wearing his good shirt. He'd even polished his boots, an effort that made him feel slightly foolish as he tied Penny to the hitching post. Mrs. Harrison herself answered his knock, a plump, gray-haired woman with shrewd eyes and a welcoming smile. "Mr. Whitaker, what a pleasant surprise. We don't often see you in town on Sundays." "Miss Cooper invited me for supper, madam. Said something about apple pie." Mrs. Harrison's eyes twinkled. "Did she now? Well, come in, come in. Lily's pies are indeed something special." The boarding house parlor was crowded with the other residents, a schoolteacher, a clerk from the bank, and an elderly couple who'd moved to town to be closer to their son who ran the blacksmith shop. They all greeted Isaiah with varying degrees of curiosity. It wasn't often the reclusive rancher joined social gatherings. Emma spotted him immediately and came running. "Mr. Whitaker, did you start fixing Harriet's house yet?" "Emma, let Mr. Whitaker catch his breath," Lily admonished, appearing from the kitchen with a serving dish. She wore a simple dress of deep green, her hair arranged more elegantly than he'd seen before. "Good evening, Mr. Whitaker. I'm glad you could join us." "Thank you for inviting me, Miss Cooper." He handed her a small package. "Brought some honey from my hives, thought you might enjoy it." A look of genuine pleasure crossed her face. "How thoughtful. I haven't had fresh honey since we left Denver." The meal was simple but abundant: roast chicken, potatoes, fresh bread, and vegetables from Mrs. Harrison's garden. The conversation flowed easily around the table, with much of the talk centered on town gossip and the news brought by the latest stage. "Is it true you fought in the war, Mr. Whitaker?" The bank clerk, a young man named Simmons, asked during a lull. Isaiah stiffened slightly. "Yes, Union Army, 8th Illinois Cavalry. My brother died at Antietam," Mrs. Harrison said quietly. "Terrible business." "Yes, madam," Isaiah agreed, not wanting to say more. The war had left scars that weren't visible, memories he preferred not to revisit. Sensing his discomfort, Lily smoothly changed the subject. "Emma tells me you keep bees, Mr. Whitaker. I've always found them fascinating." Grateful for the redirection, Isaiah nodded. Started with 2 hives after I settled here. Got 8 now. They're good company, busy with their own concerns, not much interested in mine. I'd love to see them someday, Emma piped up. Do they make a lot of honey? Fair amount. More than I can use myself. That's why I bring some to town now and then. Perhaps you could show Emma your bees sometime, Lily suggested. She's very curious about the natural world. I'd be glad to if you'd both care to visit. Ranch isn't much to look at, but the views are fine and the bees are always working. The invitation hung in the air, more significant than it might seem. Isaiah rarely welcomed visitors to his property, preferring his solitude. But the thought of Lily and Emma bringing life to his quiet homestead was suddenly appealing. We'd like that, Lily said softly. When the dollhouse is finished, perhaps. After the meal, while the others retired to the parlor, Isaiah helped Lily clear the dishes despite her protests. You're a guest, Mr. Whitaker. You shouldn't be working. My mother would turn in her grave if she knew I sat idle while a lady cleared the table, he replied, carrying a stack of plates to the kitchen. Besides, gives us a chance to talk without little ears listening. In the kitchen, as they worked side by side, Isaiah asked the question that had been on his mind. What brought you to Sweetwater, Miss Cooper? It's not exactly a destination for most folks. Lily's hands stilled briefly as she dried a plate. Necessity, mainly. After James died consumption, 3 years ago I tried to make a go of it in Denver. Had a position as a seamstress in a dress shop, but when the owner died, his son closed the business. She shrugged slightly. Mrs. Harrison advertised for help in a Denver paper. It seemed like Providence. Must have been hard, striking out on your own with a child. Harder to stay where we were. Her voice was matter of fact, but he could sense the strength it took to maintain that composure. Emma deserves a stable home, even if it's a modest one. You're doing right by her. Anyone can see that. Lily looked up at him, her expression softening. And what about you, Mr. Whitaker? What brought you to Wyoming land? He said simply. After the war, I drifted for a while, worked cattle drives, did some carpentry, whatever paid, saved every penny. When I had enough, I wanted something of my own. Government was practically giving land away out here to veterans. No family back east, parents gone before the war, had a sister once. He swallowed hard. She died young. I'm sorry, Lily said softly. Loneliness is a difficult companion. Gets easier with practice, he replied, attempting lightness. Or so I tell myself. Their eyes met, and in that moment, Isaiah felt a connection, 2 people who understood loss, who'd rebuilt their lives around the empty spaces left behind. It was Lily who looked away first, resuming her work with the dishes. Have you started on Harriet's house? She asked. Drew up some plans, salvaged what I could from the original. The craftsmanship was remarkable. Your husband had real talent. Yes, he did. James could look at a piece of wood and see what was hiding inside it. Emma has his eye for detail. I noticed. Sharp little thing, isn't she? Pride illuminated Lily's face. Too smart for her own good sometimes. Asks questions I can't always answer. Best kind of child, Isaiah said, thinking again of his sister. Curious minds build the future. When all the dishes were dried and put away, they rejoined the others in the parlor. Emma immediately claimed Isaiah's attention, showing him a book of pressed flowers she'd been creating. As the evening drew to a close, Isaiah found himself reluctant to leave. It had been the most pleasant few hours he'd spent in longer than he could remember. Thank you for coming, Mr. Whitaker, Lily said as she walked him to the door. Emma was delighted to have you here. And you, Miss Cooper? He asked before he could stop himself. Were you also pleased with the company? A faint blush colored her cheeks. Very much so. It's nice to make new friends in Sweetwater. Friends, he repeated, tasting the word. Yes, I suppose that's what we are now. I hope so, she replied softly. As Isaiah rode home under a canopy of stars, he realized that his quiet life had just become considerably less solitary. And for the first time in years, he welcomed the change. Over the next few weeks, Isaiah divided his time between his ranch duties and working on the dollhouse. He'd managed to incorporate some of the original elements, the tiny staircase with carved banisters, some of the window frames, and a few pieces of the miniature furniture. The rest he crafted anew, taking care to match the style of James Cooper's work as closely as possible. He found himself thinking of Lily often as he worked. Her quiet strength and the gentleness with which she mothered Emma had awakened something in him that he'd thought long dormant, a yearning for connection, for family. But he was careful not to let these thoughts run too far ahead. Lily was a widow still finding her way, and he was a man with little to offer beyond a small ranch and a life of hard work. It was a warm afternoon in late May when Isaiah loaded the nearly completed dollhouse into his wagon and headed for town. He hadn't seen Lily or Emma since that Sunday supper 2 weeks prior, though they'd remained firmly in his thoughts. Mrs. Harrison directed him to the backyard, where Lily was teaching Emma her letters at a small table in the shade of an apple tree. Mr. Whitaker. Emma exclaimed, abandoning her slate and running to greet him. "Did you bring Harriet's house?" "Emma," Lily chided gently, rising from her seat. "Good afternoon, Mr. Whitaker, Miss Cooper." He removed his hat. "Hope I'm not interrupting the young lady's education." "We were just finishing," Lily assured him. "Is that?" She gestured toward the wagon. "It is. Thought you might like to see the progress. It's nearly done, just needs some paint and a few finishing touches." Together they retrieved the dollhouse from the wagon and set it on the garden table. Isaiah watched nervously as Lily and Emma examined his work. He'd put more care into this project than anything he'd built in years, motivated by something beyond simple craftsmanship. "It's beautiful," Lily breathed, running her fingers along the tiny front porch he'd added, complete with miniature rocking chairs. Emma was speechless, her eyes wide as she carefully opened the hinged roof to peer inside. "The furniture's not all there yet," Isaiah explained. "Still working on some pieces, and I thought Miss Emma might have opinions on the colors for the walls and such. Blue for my room," Emma found her voice at last, "and Harriet needs a kitchen with a real table like we had in Denver." "I think that can be arranged," Isaiah said, relieved by their reaction. "There's something else I wanted to show you." He carefully turned the dollhouse to reveal a small mechanism on one side. "If you wind this gently now," Emma turned the little key and a sweet melody began to play. Her face lit up with wonder. "A music box, Mama, listen." "It's lovely," Lily said, her eyes meeting Isaiah's. "You've gone to so much trouble." "It was no trouble," he assured her, though in truth he'd ridden all the way to Laramie to find the small music box movement from a watchmaker there. "Thought it might make it special." "It's perfect," Emma declared. "Harriet will love it. Can we keep it here now?" Isaiah shook his head. "Not quite yet, Miss Emma. Still needs a bit more work, but soon, I promise." As Emma continued to explore the dollhouse, Lily drew Isaiah aside. "This is far more than we expected. You've recreated James's work and made it even more wonderful." "I wanted to do it right," he said simply. "The little one deserves something special." Lily studied him, her expression thoughtful. "You're a good man, Isaiah Whitaker. Kinder than you let on to most folks, I suspect." The use of his first name caught him by surprise, warming him in a way the spring sunshine couldn't account for. "Not especially good, Miss Cooper, just doing what anyone would." "Lily," she corrected gently, "and we both know that's not true. Not everyone would spend weeks crafting something so perfect for a child they barely know." Before Isaiah could respond, Mrs. Harrison called from the back door. "Lily, dear, the stage just brought a large package for you." Curiosity crossed Lily's face. "I wasn't expecting anything." She turned to Emma. "Stay here with Mr. Whitaker while I see what this is about." As Lily disappeared into the house, Emma continued her detailed inspection of the dollhouse. "Harriet's room needs curtains," she informed Isaiah solemnly. "Pink ones." "I'll make a note of that," he replied, equally serious. "Any other requirements I should know about?" "A garden," Emma decided, "with tiny flowers and maybe a dog. Harriet likes dogs." "Does she now?" "Well, I believe I can manage a small canine companion." They were discussing the merits of different dog breeds for Harriet when Lily returned, her face pale. "Emma, please go help Mrs. Harrison shell the peas for dinner," she said, her voice strained. "But Mama, I'm helping Mr. Whitaker with Harriet's house." "Now, please, Emma." Something in her tone brooked no argument. With a disappointed sigh, Emma trudged toward the house, glancing back longingly at the dollhouse. Once she was out of earshot, Lily turned to Isaiah. "I've just received a letter from Denver, from my former employer's son, Richard Allen." "The one who closed the dress shop," she nodded. "He's reopened the business and wants me to return. He's offering a position as head seamstress, more money than I make here, and a small apartment above the shop for Emma and me." Isaiah felt as though the ground had shifted beneath his feet. "I see, that would be a good opportunity for you both." "It would," she agreed, though she didn't sound entirely convinced. "Denver has schools, cultural opportunities that Sweetwater can't offer. It would be better for Emma's future." "When would you leave?" The question came out more brusquely than he'd intended. "He's requested I arrive by the end of June, in time for the fall fashion season preparations." Lily's hands twisted in her apron. "I haven't decided yet." Isaiah nodded, trying to master the unexpected surge of emotion. He had no right to feel disappointed. Lily and Emma had been in his life for barely a month, and yet the prospect of them leaving created an emptiness he hadn't anticipated. "Well," he said finally, "I'd best get the dollhouse back to the ranch. Still needs those curtains Emma mentioned." "Isaiah," Lily said softly, "I haven't made my decision, of course. It's a big choice. You should take your time." He carefully lifted the dollhouse. "I'll have this finished soon either way." As he loaded the dollhouse back into his wagon, Isaiah felt Lily's eyes on him, but he couldn't bring himself to meet her gaze. He'd let himself hope for something he had no right to expect. Lily deserved the opportunities Denver could provide, and Emma needed the advantages of city life. His small ranch and solitary existence couldn't compare. "Will you still come to Sunday supper?" Lily called as he prepared to leave. Isaiah paused, then nodded. "Wouldn't miss your apple pie, Miss Cooper." The formality wasn't lost on her. A shadow crossed her face, but she didn't correct him. "Until Sunday, then." The days that followed were among the longest of Isaiah's life. He threw himself into his work, rising before dawn and collapsing into bed well after dark. When he wasn't tending cattle or mending fences, he worked obsessively on the dollhouse, determined to complete it perfectly regardless of whether its owners would soon depart for Denver. By Sunday, he had finished. The dollhouse stood in the back of his wagon, covered with a clean blanket to protect it from dust. He'd added everything Emma had requested: pink curtains for Harriet's room, a tiny garden with painted flowers, even a small wooden dog with a spotted coat. He'd also crafted additional furniture: delicate chairs, tables, beds, and a kitchen complete with a miniature cast iron stove. As he approached Mrs. Harrison's boarding house, Isaiah felt an unfamiliar nervousness. He'd never been a man of many words, and the thought of saying goodbye to Lily and Emma, for it seemed increasingly likely that they would accept the Denver offer, left him uncharacteristically tongue-tied. The meal was subdued compared to his previous visit. Though Emma chattered happily, oblivious to the undercurrents, Lily was quiet, responding to the conversation around her but rarely initiating it. Several times Isaiah caught her watching him, a thoughtful expression on her face. After dessert, apple pie as promised, Isaiah cleared his throat. "If you don't mind, Miss Cooper, I've brought the dollhouse. It's finished now." Emma's squeal of delight broke the tension, and soon the entire boarding house population had gathered in the garden to witness the unveiling. Isaiah carefully removed the blanket, revealing the completed dollhouse in all its glory. He'd even added a fresh coat of paint, soft yellow, for the exterior with white trim, just like the house James Cooper had originally created. The assembled group murmured appreciatively, but Isaiah had eyes only for Lily and Emma. The little girl was bouncing with excitement, pointing out each detail to her doll Harriet, who had been brought out for the occasion. Lily's expression was more complex delight, certainly, but also something deeper, something that made Isaiah's heart beat faster despite his best efforts to remain detached. "It's perfect," Emma declared, carefully exploring each room. "Look, Mama, there's even a tiny bookshelf with books." "I see that, sweetheart," Lily replied, her voice soft. "Mr. Whitaker has thought of everything." As the other boarders drifted back inside, Lily approached Isaiah. "Could we speak privately?" He nodded, and they moved to a bench beneath the apple tree while Emma continued to play with the dollhouse nearby. "I don't know how to thank you," Lily began. "What you've created, it's beyond anything I could have expected." "It was my pleasure," Isaiah replied honestly. "Gave me something worthwhile to do with my evenings." "Isaiah," she said, the sound of his name on her lips still new enough to catch his attention. "I've made my decision about Denver," he steeled himself. "I'm sure you'll be very happy there. Emma will thrive with all those opportunities." "I'm not going." The words took a moment to register. "What?" "I've written to Mr. Allen declining his offer." Lily's hands were folded neatly in her lap, but he could see the slight tremor in her fingers. "Emma and I are staying in Sweetwater." "But the position, the advantages for Emma, there are different kinds of advantages." Her eyes met his directly. "In Denver, we would have more money, yes. Better schools, perhaps, but here, Emma has found happiness I haven't seen since her father died. She has Mrs. Harrison, who dotes on her like a grandmother. She has the whole town watching out for her." A pause. "And she has you, who would spend weeks building her the most beautiful dollhouse imaginable, expecting nothing in return." Isaiah hardly dared to breathe. "Lily, I've spent 3 years trying to be practical," she continued. "Making the sensible choice, the safe choice. But watching you with Emma, seeing how you pour your heart into everything you do, it reminded me that there's more to life than security." "I don't have much to offer," he said quietly, "just a small ranch and a simple life." "That's where you're wrong," Lily replied. "You offer kindness, integrity, patience." Her voice softened. "Things Emma and I value far more than anything Denver might provide." Hope, that fragile thing Isaiah had tried so hard to suppress, unfurled in his chest. "Are you saying—" "I'm saying I'd like us to get to know each other better, Isaiah Whitaker, properly, without the pressure of imminent departures." A smile tugged at his lips. "I believe I'd like that very much, Miss Cooper." "It's still Lily," she reminded him, returning his smile. From where she played with the dollhouse, Emma called out, "Mama, Mr. Whitaker, come see, I've arranged all the furniture." As they rose to join her, Isaiah felt Lily's hand brush against his, a brief, almost accidental touch that nonetheless sent warmth spreading through him. For the first time in longer than he could remember, Isaiah felt the future opening before him, full of possibilities he had never allowed himself to imagine. The weeks that followed took on a rhythm that quickly became the happiest of Isaiah's life. He rode into town every few days, often bringing small gifts, fresh honey, wildflowers from the ranch, once a kitten from a litter born in his barn. Sundays became sacred not just for the church service he now attended regularly, but for the afternoons spent with Lily and Emma at Mrs. Harrison's boarding house. As spring mellowed into summer, Isaiah invited them to visit his ranch. He spent days preparing, cleaning the cabin that had never known a woman's touch, planting flowers along the path to the door, ensuring the bees were settled in their hives far enough from the house to be safe for visitors. When the day arrived, he met them in town with his wagon, helping Lily up to the seat beside him while Emma bounced excitedly in the back, Harriet clutched firmly in one hand. "It's not much," Isaiah warned as they approached the small ranch house nestled against a backdrop of pines. "But the land is good and the view makes up for a lot." "It's lovely," Lily said sincerely, taking in the sweeping vista of mountains in the distance. "So peaceful." Emma was already scrambling down from the wagon, eager to explore. "Where are the bees, Mr. Whitaker? Can I see them?" "And the cows, do you have baby cows?" "Calves," Isaiah corrected gently. "And yes, we can see both, but the bees require special care. I've got a veil you can wear so they won't bother you." The day passed in a blur of simple pleasures, showing Emma the bee hives from a safe distance, letting her feed a bottle to an orphaned calf, picking strawberries from the small patch Isaiah had started the previous year. Lily helped prepare lunch, moving about his kitchen as if she belonged there, her presence transforming the utilitarian space into something that felt like a home. As the afternoon waned, they sat on the porch, watching the sun begin its descent toward the mountains. Emma had fallen asleep on a quilt spread in the shade, Harriet tucked securely beside her. "She's exhausted," Lily observed, smiling at her daughter's peaceful form. "You've created a paradise for her today." "She's easy to please," Isaiah replied. "Just needs a bit of adventure and attention." "Like her mother," Lily said softly, then looked away as if she hadn't meant to speak aloud. Isaiah studied her profile, admiring the way the golden light caught in her hair. Over the past months, he'd come to know her better, her quiet strength, her fierce love for her daughter, the gentle humor that emerged when she felt comfortable. Each new discovery only deepened his feelings for her. "Lily," he began, his voice rough with emotion. "These past months, having you and Emma in my life, it's changed everything." She turned to face him, her eyes reflecting the same warmth he felt. "For us as well." "I know it's soon," he continued, "and I'm not a man of grand gestures or fine words. But I want you to know that my feelings for you are serious. When I think about the future now, I see you in it, both of you." Lily's hand found his, her fingers intertwining with his calloused ones. "I feel the same way, Isaiah. I wasn't looking for this for you when we came to Sweetwater. But sometimes life gives you exactly what you need, even when you don't recognize it at first." They sat in comfortable silence as the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the land. Finally, Lily spoke again. "There's something I've been meaning to ask you about the dollhouse." "What about it?" "The roof," she said. "I noticed you kept it slightly crooked, even though I know you could have made it perfectly straight if you'd wanted to." Isaiah smiled, remembering the deliberate choice he'd made. "I wanted to preserve some of what her father had built, even the imperfections. When I was working on it, I started to straighten the roofline, but then I thought it had character that way. It was uniquely James's work." "I wondered," Lily said. "Emma noticed too." "She told me, Mama, it's still crooked like Papa made it." "I hope that was all right. I could still fix it if you'd prefer." Lily squeezed his hand. "No, when I saw it, I thought to myself, she'll like it crooked. It's yours that way. Partly her father's creation, partly yours, just like her life now." The simple wisdom of her words struck him deeply. "You're an extraordinary woman, Lily Cooper, and you, Isaiah Whitaker, are a man who understands what truly matters." Her eyes held his. "That's why I'm falling in love with you." The words hung in the air between them, honest and unadorned. Isaiah felt something shift within him, the last walls around his heart crumbling away. "I'm already in love with you," he admitted. "Have been since you invited me for apple pie." Her laugh was soft, joyful. "That was my intention all along." As the first stars appeared in the darkening sky, Isaiah leaned forward and gently, reverently, kissed her. It was a beginning simple and profound all at once. In the months that followed, Isaiah courted Lily properly with Mrs. Harrison's beaming approval and Emma's enthusiastic endorsement. He expanded the cabin, adding a proper bedroom for Emma and improving the kitchen for Lily, who had proven to be an excellent cook. By Christmas, with snow blanketing the Wyoming landscape, he asked for her hand, presenting her with a simple gold band that had been his mother's. They were married in the spring of 1879, a year after Lily and Emma had arrived in Sweetwater. The entire town turned out for the celebration, delighted by the union of the quiet rancher and the widowed seamstress. Emma served as flower girl, proudly carrying Harriet down the aisle before her mother. As Lily and Isaiah settled into their life together, the dollhouse held a place of honor in Emma's room at the ranch. Sometimes, when Isaiah passed by and saw his stepdaughter playing with it, he would pause to watch, marveling at how such a simple thing had changed the course of his life. "Do you ever regret not going back to Denver?" he asked Lily one evening as they sat on the porch, watching the sunset while Emma played nearby with the new puppy Isaiah had given her for her 7th birthday. Lily shook her head. "Not for a moment. Everything I need is right here." Even with all the work, the ranch had prospered under their joint care, expanding to include more cattle and a larger garden. Lily had started selling her preserves and baked goods in town, building a small but steady business of her own. "Especially with the work," she replied, leaning against his shoulder. "It's ours, Isaiah. Everything we build together." In the fall of 1880, their family grew with the arrival of Thomas James Whitaker, a sturdy boy with his father's blue eyes and his mother's determined spirit. Emma took to her role as big sister with serious dedication, often reading to the baby from her growing collection of books or showing him Harriet's dollhouse, which he regarded with wide-eyed fascination. Life was not always easy. The Wyoming winters were harsh, and ranching brought its share of challenges: drought seasons, cattle sickness, the endless work that came with taming the land. But Isaiah and Lily faced each obstacle together, their partnership strengthening with each passing year. By 1885, their family had grown again with the addition of Sarah Margaret, named for both grandmothers. The ranch had expanded to 300 acres with a proper barn and several hired hands to help with the increasing herd. Emma, now 13, attended the school in Sweetwater, riding in with Isaiah when he went to town for supplies. The dollhouse remained, passed down to Sarah when she was old enough to appreciate it, though Emma still occasionally sat with her sister, showing her how to arrange the furniture just so and explaining the importance of the crooked roof. "Papa could have fixed it," she told Sarah one day when Isaiah happened to overhear. "He can build anything straight and true, but he left it crooked because that's how my first father made it." That's how Mama knew he was a good man, because he understood that sometimes the most precious things aren't perfect. The wisdom in his stepdaughter's words brought a lump to Isaiah's throat. She had grown into a thoughtful young woman, with her mother's quiet strength and a keen intelligence that would take her far. Already she spoke of attending college back east someday, a dream Isaiah and Lily fully supported. One evening in the summer of 1890, as they celebrated their 11th wedding anniversary with a rare quiet dinner after the children were asleep, Lily presented Isaiah with a gift, a framed photograph of their family standing proudly before the ranch house, which had grown over the years into a comfortable home. In the foreground, Emma held Harriet's dollhouse, now somewhat weathered but still cherished. "When I think of how close I came to leaving," Lily mused, her hand finding his across the table, "if I'd gone back to Denver, you'd have had an easier life, perhaps," Isaiah acknowledged. "An emptier one." Her eyes, still as beautiful to him as the day they'd met, held his. "I used to think safety meant security, a reliable income, a respectable position, but I've learned that true safety is found in love, in family, in a home built with care, even if the roof is a little crooked." Isaiah squeezed her hand, overwhelmed as always by the depth of his feelings for this remarkable woman. "I thank God every day that you saw something worth staying for in a weathered old cowboy like me." "Not old," she corrected with a smile, "experienced, steady. The kind of man who would spend weeks crafting the perfect dollhouse for a child he barely knew, simply because it mattered to her." "Best work I ever did," Isaiah replied honestly, "led me to you." As they sat together in the home they had built, surrounded by the evidence of their shared life, Isaiah reflected on the strange and wonderful path that had brought them to this moment. From a chance encounter in a general store to a family bound by love, all because of a broken dollhouse and a woman wise enough to see that sometimes imperfection held its own kind of beauty. Outside, the Wyoming stars shone brilliantly in the vast sky, illuminating the land that had given Isaiah Whitaker everything he had never known he needed: not just a place to belong, but people to belong with. And at the center of it all was Lily, who had once told him, "She'll like it crooked." "It's yours that way." Words that had changed both their lives, leading them to a happiness neither had dared to imagine, as enduring as the mountains that watched over their home and as precious as the love they had found in Sweetwater.